Guys, it's Chris on. Today we're going to be talking about and answering a question that a lot of people ask me. And it's basically what it takes in order to change, in order to transform, in order to become the person that essentially you're supposed to be. Someone that's better than where they're already at. And what it takes. Well, the first thing that I sort of understood was, and the way that I looked away at answering this, is that you have to have the consistent mindset of a student. And a student basically recognizes that you can't become anyone who you want to become because you're too attached to who you've been. Now, there's so many ways that you can interpret that question, but the way that I understand it is that a student, a true student, a person who's wanting to learn, understands that their previous thinking is wrong. It's incorrect. Now, there's so many different learnings of students, but the truth is we're always learning. But it's about the different mindsets that we have when we are learning. For example, when you look at a child and they're learning from someone else, they have no choice but to believe what it is that the adult is saying because they have nothing else to lose. They have to believe that what that person is talking about is true. Because if not, then they risk of never being able to succeed. Literally, if they from the get-go start to hesitate, start to second-guess anything that their parent or guardian is teaching them, then they will never progress as a person because they have to believe it. They have no choice. It's their only way of basically progressing. And some people might think that's extreme, but the truth is that you have to essentially give up every previous thought that you once believed, everything that you grew up towards being. You have to pretend as if it was wrong. Only and only when you trust in your mentorship. That's the key. When you find and plug yourself into a level of mentorship, that's basically a person, I always suggest plugging into someone who has what you want. They have achieved and set out to achieve the thing that you're looking to accomplish yourself. Because then and only then they can give you applicable advice directly related to your journey because they've probably gone through exact or very similar circumstances. And you have to approach it by you literally are a student, which means that a student, as primitive as you can possibly be, where everything that you've learned previously up until that point, it's a lie. It's just simply not true anymore. And the reason why that is because if you take so much inconsistent counsel from a bunch of different people, you'll notice that so many different success principles conflict. And that's the toughest thing about success, because like a really common one is the mindsets between fail forward and prior planning. If you've ever heard the quote where it's like, you need to fail your way to success, failing forward, as you fail, the more you fail, the more close you get to success. I subscribe to that one. But the opposite one is prior planning prevents poor performance. And that's more so like, if you gave me 12 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 10 sharpening my axe. And although both are applicable, but they're both more or less applicable in different industries. And if you relate yourself or link yourself to different mentors, you might find yourself being very conflicted on a bunch of other success-oriented quotes or mindsets and stuff like that. So it's really important that you plug into one or two who are very specific, hopefully in the same team, that can give you direct advice. And you just have to pretend that what you've learned previously is wrong if you want the results of what they've attained. Now, of course, you need a level of trust, you need a level of loyalty between you, but the truth is that if a person is taking you on their wing and they have what you're looking to accomplish, that's proof in itself that they are probably have your best interest in mind. And so you have to start to understand that student mindset believes that everything that they've learned previous or that everything on the subject that they think they know is wrong. So in other words, you can't become who you want to become because you're too attached to who you've been. And it's tough. It's really not easy, especially if you're older. I'm talking about above the age of 25, and you need to learn from someone else, and you have to sort of start again. And there's a reason why it's very difficult to mold your brain and mold your mind past the age of 25. It's because you're very set in your ways, and it's unfortunate because I'm not saying that you don't have a lot of there's not a lot of chance or opportunity for you, because there is, but it's just a lot harder if you're above the age of 25. It normally takes trauma. Massive trauma creates massive change for a majority of people above the age of 25. Something happens with their kids, they lose their kids, a death happens, their business completely implodes, and then all of a sudden they're more open to learning. And it's really sad that such a tragic accident has to happen in order for major change to occur for a lot of people. But if you can recognize that and realize that that doesn't need to happen in order for you to change, then that's obviously a huge likelihood. But outside of that, you need to understand that the person you are today is because of what you repeatedly do. So many people think that your mindset or who you are is this weird, it's this weird thing, when in reality it's literally just your decisions. It's your daily decisions, your daily habits, your daily routine. Aristotle says that humans are a creature of habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence isn't something that we attain, but something that we create out of habit. So basically, what we're doing, what we do day to day, that reflects who we become. That's who we are in the future. So if you want to change that, if you want to change that person that you are, You need to look at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Understands that there are good habits, there are bad habits. What are the ones that you want to get rid of? And it's really difficult and it's not easy. And because if it was so easy, everybody would do it. But I'll tell you this. Understanding how habits form, what were the ones that were created and the ones that you need to change is drastically going to increase your chances of success. In fact, I would argue it's the most important foundational key, getting your habits correct. So let's break it down. How is it that habits start? How is it that habits form? Well, first of all, habits form from cue, routine, and reward. That's generally recognized as the way that a habit is created. There's a cue, there's a routine, and there's a reward. So for example, something like drinking. You cue, someone offers you a beer. Routine, you drink the beer. The reward is you feel a little bit better. And so it constantly happens, the reward occurs, or all of a sudden you have a habit. Now a habit is essentially your brain automating a process, because your brain is smart. It doesn't want to spend any excess energy thinking. So if it can automate a habit where the muscle memory is there, it's going to do that. And all of a sudden those are harder to break, and that's when a habit has formed. Now, the one that I spoke about is an alcohol habit, which widely is considered as a negative habit. It's a bad habit. Now, so many people view bad habits and they think they can solve bad habits with more bad habits. They think that it's going to get rid of them. For example, you could argue that drinking soft drink is healthier than drinking alcohol. So rather than drinking alcohol, they drink soft drink instead. Now, you might think that that's smart and that might work because you're substituting one bad habit for a habit that's less as bad. But the truth is, now you've just got two bad habits. See, the thing about habits is that they never actually go away. They always are there. They become less automated, but they're always apparent, which is why relapses happen, which is why you can go 20 years sober without a certain substance and then completely fall into the same rut. It's because habits never leave. So it's always important to replace that habit with a good habit. So you have to recognize the bad habits and don't try to lessen them, completely transform and change them. If you have a drinking habit, pick up a book reading habit. If you have a drinking habit, pick up exercising a habit. It has to be the polar opposite, where there is no bad side towards the habit that you're looking to create, especially if you have a goal. If you're looking towards achieving a goal, it needs to be a habit that's productive towards achieving it. And so let's talk about how it is that these habits form and how you can sort of rework and change them. Well, basically, normally it comes from a level of stress. Bad habits genuinely form from stress. So we as people, we don't like stress. Stress is something that we genuinely actively look towards avoiding. In fact, so much so that it creates an excessive cycle. So we have stress, let's say it's a task or something that we need to do, and we want to put it off. We don't like it. It's something that causes us discomfort. So we want to basically avoid it as much as possible. So we procrastinate. We get our mind distracted from the task that we know that we should be doing. And then all of a sudden, a certain amount of period passes, and we come back to thinking about doing the task again, and now there's more stress because the same task that you had more time to do, now you have less. For example, an assignment or a report or something like that. And so you procrastinate it more, and it's a constant cycle, and that itself becomes a habit, and that's a poor habit of procrastination. So whenever it comes to fixing these habits, how do you sort them? Well, first of all, you want to develop discipline. Discipline is the number one thing, because if you don't have a level of discipline, a level of willpower, no matter what, no matter how many habits you try to break, you will always relapse. So that's the first step. But let's talk about forming it. Now, I utilize something called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. So there's a bunch of different strategies that you can use, and I'd best suggest that you merge a bunch. But the one that I normally utilize is in order to combat the habit of procrastination, which is a lot of people have, is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. So first of all, you need to understand first when there is something that you're supposed to do. So this is when you implement it. The second you have that common sense that I should be doing this thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, how it implements is basically, once you get that thought, you count backwards from 5 and you just do the task. And it almost sounds so simple that it's too easy, but the truth is that's why it works. See, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is the universal countdown for something needs to happen. Your brain is so programmed through social conditioning that when there's a countdown, you're supposed to do something. In fact, so often, like Steve-O from Jackass, he's a person who always implements it whenever he says that if there's a level of risk in the stunt, whether it's himself or someone else, and he's hesitating, and there's no room for error, meaning that if he does hesitate, there's a level of time that's going to cause a possible accident, he utilizes the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule to make sure that he doesn't hesitate, he doesn't cause any excess risk for himself or others. Now, his thing is that he's never backed out of it, and that's the key. See, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule that I utilize is just as much as a habit as every other one. So you need to make sure that you have integrity to yourself, that every single time you do utilize the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, you follow through with it. And I'll break that down even further. See, the Navy SEALs, they basically have this part of their training. One of the final things they do is they jump off a giant diving board. And anyone that hesitates, they straight away kick off. They kick off the board. But the thing is, all their fear comes from anticipation, climbing up the ladder. The climbing up the ladder, their fear builds. Once they reach the top, it plateaus. And the only thing they're left with is the decision to jump and the action to cure it. So, that's the same way that you go about curing your own stress, your own fears. It's by basically utilizing the action. But the thing about the 5-4-3-2 run rule is that if you commit to yourself that every single time you start to count down, the task is as good as attempted. Because literally, if every single time you attribute that mind to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're doing the task, then all you're left with is the decision to start the countdown. And that's what I utilize in order to help myself get out of these bad habits. And there's a lot of other ones that you can utilize, for example, scheduling and accountability. It is far more easier to accomplish something, especially if you're an individual who understands that they struggle with these things in the most part, if you attempt it with someone else. If you're looking towards quitting drinking, it's very easy to do it with someone else. It becomes a lot easier because there's a level of accountability that happens between you two. Especially if you guys are sort of a little bit more similar in personality. For example, like there's not a clear leader out of you two. You guys are a little bit more competitive to a certain extent. There is a huge more like herd mentality that comes behind it that helps you overcome these bad habits that you're wanting to do. So if you can, I would highly suggest you attempt to fix these issues that you have within your life through the help of someone else who has the issues as well. And chances are, if you have a friend group or an environment, you're probably programmed by your environment, so you could find someone who does have these issues as well. The hard part might be convincing them to change. Okay, but if you do care about enough, then you can look towards implementing these solutions, implementing these changes, because there's something about it. There's a reason why AA meetings are so productive. It's because when you go to people who are struggling through the same thing, who are all looking to solve the issues themselves too, there's a little bit of like camaraderie that occurs and it sort of feels as if everybody's going through the same thing together. So you can look towards solving the problem together. And that's why I highly suggest people, if they are coming over these bad habits because they do want to change the person that they are, look towards creating a level of accountability with yourself by developing it through someone else as well. And then and only then, you might be able to helpfully overcome it. Now, I highly suggest when you do overcome this bad habit or this addiction, the 12 steps whenever it comes to breaking an addiction or a bad habit is that you take on and you teach and train someone else. You lead someone else. And it's a weird phenomenon, but they've noticed that anyone who leads someone else in order to conquering this thing that they did, there's an 80% chance that they won't relapse. And that is an incredible high odds. So I highly suggest that if you do care about not relapsing, you take on someone else under their wing and help coach them through it as well, whatever addiction it is. Whether it's the track towards success, if you're looking towards becoming successful, become a mentor. Give back, because someone probably gave back to you. And finally, it's like you got to get in order to give up. In order to get, you must give up, In order to get something, you must give up. Going back to that whole thing that you can't look towards growing if you're attached to the person you are. You have to give up sometimes the things that you want most out of life. If you want to party, if you want to be social, if you want to have all this fun time, sometimes in order to live in abundance of that, you have to give up. If you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, and you're still partying and stuff like that, it's really weird, but it's like, if you're successful, if you have the income that you want, it's okay to party. But if you're not, you don't have your life on track and you're above the age of 30, it's all of a sudden sad. It's really weird phenomenon. But for some reason, when you have money, things just become, it's socially more accepted. And I'm not saying that you should look towards the masses in order to decide how you want to do, but I feel like there's a formula there. So sometimes, in order to live in abundance, you have to give up the thing that you want most. If you truly want to be successful, sometimes your vices are the things that are holding you back. Something as simple as playing video games, one hour a week. Something as watching their Netflix account. And the thing is, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and it's tough, and it's not going to be easy. But the thing is, if you give up and you have the discipline and the willpower to implement these strategies and changes in your life, success is going to be something that you're going to attain. No matter what, you will eventually develop a level of success. But it's tough. You have to get your habits right. Your daily habits will determine your future. Now, how do I suggest you overcome these habits? Well, first of all, implement the 5-4-3-2-1, the 5-4-3-2-1 rule. Develop an accountability with someone else if you can. Plug into a mentorship if you're willing to, and there is someone who's able to sort of take you under the wing, but also anchoring your environment. If you're an alcoholic, get rid of alcohol. Don't let it tempt you. I struggle with as well. I try to be healthy as much as I can. So many people think that they're more in control to their response to stimulation versus the stimulation itself, their environment. I'll give you an example. I'm trying to be healthy at the moment. Alright? I love ice cream. I love ice cream so much. My response to ice cream in my freezer at 3 a.m. is gobble gobble. I eat it. I'd be healthy the entire day, and then something just comes over me, and I just go into my freezer and I eat it. And it's so frustrating because I'm doing all this positive work, and I get there and something comes over me and I just eat it. Now, I very much struggle to control that. Urges come across me late at night and I just need to eat the ice cream. But what I can control, and what I'm able to control in sound of mind, is buying the ice cream in itself from the shop. I am very much making a decision not to buy that ice cream in my shop. And that's what so many people are able to choose themselves. It's far easier to choose not to buy something in the store than it is to not drink it when it's in front of you. So the first thing I would suggest is anchor your environment. If you're a person who's struggling with certain vices, struggling with certain issues, try to get away from it as much as possible. If you're an ice cream addict like me, get rid of it. Don't put it in your freezer. If you drink a lot of alcohol, get rid of it. Don't put it in your freezer. It's really that simple in order to get yourself kick-started. Now, eventually, you will find a way in order to attain it, but that's a really first simple step. Now, the next thing in terms of your environment is who you hang around. So that's the physical properties of sorting out your environment. But the next one is your emotional ties. I think that if you drink a lot of alcohol, you probably hang around a lot of people who drink a lot of alcohol. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against alcohol. This is just a simple example that a lot of people can relate to. Just like how I think that if you fall in love a lot, you're around people who fall in love a lot. I think that if you run a lot of successful businesses, you hang around a lot of people who run successful businesses. Show me who you hang around, I'll show you your future. That's a really common quote. You are the average of the 5 people. It's the law of association. You're the average of the 5 people that you hang around. If you hang out with 4 millionaires, you're going to be the 5th. If you hang out with 4 homeless people, you're going to be the 5th. So realize who you're hanging around and understand that sometimes it's the best thing you can do is politely distance yourself from these toxic people. It's really tough and it's not easy. I've had to overcome it myself. But if you want to save these people and you have an emotional attachment to these people, unfortunately, you can't save yourself if you have the same problem as them. It's impossible. It's very difficult. If you're a person who's struggling with certain things and this person's also struggling with certain things and you're the one who's wanting to change but they're not, the only way to get through to that person is to first change yourself. And in order to do that, sometimes, majority of the time, you have to politely distance yourself. And it's not easy and it's tough. But if you care about your success, if you care about where you're heading and you care about your future, your kids' future, your family's future and everything like that and so on and so on and so on and so on, sometimes you have to make these sacrifices. It's all about giving up the thing that you want most in order to live in an abundance of it in the future. Whether it's TV, whether it's your friendships, whether it's being social, whether it's literally watching a football game at the end of the night. You could own the football team if you gave it up. But it takes a level of sacrifice and consistency, and it's not easy, it's not tough. That's why I highly suggest you get yourself in an environment that promotes that type of thinking. Plug yourself into a mentorship. The easiest way, the fastest track towards success, outside of reading books, implementing skills and learning them and stuff like that, is plugging into a mentorship. Someone who's learnt the thing that you're trying, who's achieved the thing that you're trying to learn. They will know the exact path. You can learn through their mistakes before your own, and it's just a fast-tracked, direct travel towards becoming successful. So plug into the people that are going to have that. Because if we understand that we are who we repeatedly do, then we become the people that we hang around. So understand and break down the habits that you create. Let's go back to those habits and those daily, how they end up developing. So habits, if they form, habits create your circumstances. That's so true. So many people think that life happens to them when in reality, you dictate your life. And it's really crazy, but it's not as simple. But once you understand it, that your habits determine your circumstances. And what do your habits form? Through your thoughts. Your subconscious mind is so powerful. It's so powerful. In fact, I think that if you think about cars every single day, your subconscious mind is going to actively make decisions to put you in circumstances that make you advantageous to getting the cars that you're thinking about. It's crazy how, when I was growing up, everybody wanted Commodores, and the people who cared about it enough got them. It's not actually crazy. The point of that story is that they thought about it. They wanted it so badly that their subconscious mind made them decisions, whether it was staying back at that extra 3-hour shift at McDonald's so they'd have more money towards their Commodore, or whether it was not going out a certain week so they'd have more. It was crazy, more money towards their Commodore. It was absurd to me that these people value these things, and it's fine. But that's the same with so many different things. Whatever you actively think about, I think that if you think about entertainment a lot, if you think about Netflix a lot, if you think about watching that a lot, you're going to watch a lot of Netflix. And it's so simple, and if you break it down, it's so simple, but what's tough is changing your thinking. Because it's hard. How do you take someone who cares so much about watching Netflix and towards someone who cares about making a successful business that's able to fulfill themselves and their kids and their kids and their kids? Well, the truth is that you have to ask them. Because so many people don't know what's possible. So many people literally think that success is just not something that's attainable for them, when in reality, success isn't an ultimatum decision. Success isn't a pivotal point in your life where you make one decision and the next day you're a millionaire. It's small, insignificant habits, insignificant day-to-day choices that develop an crazy amount of success. The average CEO reads 52 books a year. That's one book a week. 15 minutes a day can attribute that. That's a daily habit that affects their success. The NBA player, they shoot the most shots, they practice, do 2 a day, and that's the reason why they're in the NBA. It's these small, insignificant habits and choices that so many people disregard, that end up attaining that vast level of success. And that's the truth. These small, insignificant things end up developing these large quantities of success. And yet so many people disregard those small individual habits. It's crazy, but it's really that simple. So you have to first understand and control your small day-to-day habits. I end up breaking down into 2 categories, or arguably 3. Basically, there's urgent and important decisions and actions that you can make, and then there's unproductive or distractions, choices and decisions and habits that you have. Those are the 2. Those are the 2 separate categories. So, how do you understand what's urgent and important? Well, once you first understand your goal, what is the thing that you're looking towards achieve in life? Short term, medium term, long term. Understand and recognize those, and then basically, whatever decision is important towards that goal, or urgent towards that goal, that is what is basically you're doing. Anything else, anything that is unproductive, is a distraction. It's not easy. It's tough. It's really difficult. But once you can basically break down and understand and stop, the toughest thing is not lying to yourself. Because you're smart. Everybody is smart enough to justify a decision. Everybody is smart enough to justify an emotional decision with logic. For example, going to the beach, going out that night. It's like, I needed a break. This will make me more productive in my work. That's not true. That's not true. That's a straight up lie. To make yourself feel better. I see so many people do it. Your relentless effort is what it's going to take. Extreme discipline. If you want to guarantee success, there's some people who make it on less. But if you want to guarantee success, stack your odds, relentless effort. That's what it takes in order to become successful. Understanding that there are urgent and important activities. Urgent means that it's relative to a deadline. There is a certain time frame that you need to get this thing done. Something like a report at work. Something like making sure that you talk to your team at this certain time. What's important is something like reviewing, evaluating your daily practice. It's not urgent, it's not restricted to a certain timeline, but it is so important. And the way that you differentiate the 2 is that you put the deadlines on the important stuff to make sure that they're always being prioritized. Because important basically means it's long-term going to affect you. Urgent means that short-term is going to affect you. They're both just as important. Okay, you just need to basically differentiate the 2. Anything that doesn't fall into those 2 categories, you have to basically understand that it's unproductive. It's distractions. You're either focused or you're distracted. Those are the 2 states of minds that you're in, no matter what. You're focused on attaining your goals, you're focused on being productive towards the things that you wish towards achieving, or you're unproductive. And it's tough and it's not easy. So what is it that you can do? Well, first thing, I'd figure out what it is that you're doing. Number 1, figure out what you're working towards. What are your goals? I'm talking about the most important things. If you could attempt anything in life and there was 0% chance of failure, what is it that you look towards achieving? And then write that down. That's what's important to you. Figure it out from there. Right, next. Understand your daily habits. Break it down to what's important. What's productive? What is productive towards this goal that you're attaining? Alright, short term, medium term, long term. For example, if you're working a job in McDonald's, nothing's wrong with that. I work in McDonald's. Long term, that is not productive towards your goal. But short term, it is. Because you need money, you need cash flow. Especially if you're just starting out, you need cash flow. Break it down into those categories. Then finally figure out what are your bad habits, what are your vices, what are the things that are unproductive to your goal. Watching Netflix, playing video games, going out, drinking, girls, relationships. I'm talking about needless relationships. Understand those, break them into those categories, and then understand what solutions you're going to implement to get them out of there. That's the number 1 thing. Go off that video. Once this video is done, you can literally sit down at a desk with a piece of paper, identify the goals, identify what is productive, short-term, long-term, medium-term, and what is unproductive right now. And basically make a decision on if that goal is important enough to start cutting out these bad habits and developing the good ones. Because that's what it's going to take. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. But it will take 3 to 5 years. I'd say max. If you have commitment to not doing anything that's unproductive, 3 to 5 years, absolute max, maybe less, and you'll be living in abundance of all the things that you want. Because the thing is, when you're successful and you have enough money and you've achieved the things that you want, there is a lot more left in life. Whether you're 50, whether you're 60, or whether you're 20, 3 to 5 years is nothing compared to 80. So, you have to make the decision. What is it that you value? Once you figure this out, make the decision for there and keep me updated along the way. Anyways, guys, I'm Chrisan. Thanks for watching the video. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Share with someone who you think they might need to listen to this video in order to make them help you. But don't stop there. Keep looking towards striving for improvement, putting yourself in a better position for success. I'll see you in the next one.